What's up, everybody? I'm Tamara, and welcome to Tam Psych Advice. So, if you're an ENFJ, you know very well what it means to be triggered because you wear your feelings and your emotions when you are re-experiencing symptoms of trauma or being reminded of something that is upsetting or triggered into frustration or anger. Some examples of trigger would be anger, anxiety, feeling overwhelmed, vulnerable, abandoned, or out of control, loneliness, muscle tension, memories tied to an unpleasant event, or sadness. So, ENFJs, can you relate to being triggered? And when you're triggered, you often feel mad at someone, irritated, misunderstood. It's a myriad of feelings. And sometimes ENFJs can be a walking ball of feelings. They could be triggered by trying to handle more than they can actually handle and discovering that they are very capable of going way past their breaking point and making things actually happen. But sometimes it's too much. They're trying to be Superwoman or Superman, and other people are not doing that. They give themselves breaks, they give themselves rest. You need to make sure you do the same thing. ENFJs could also be triggered for not holding people accountable for their part or standing up for themselves or not confronting people on certain things. So they can stand up for themselves, but most of the times they're going to hold it in and hold back. But that can be quite triggering when they feel like someone is taking advantage of them or taking them for granted. They don't understand that. But also, an ENFJ can be highly emotional, even if they're not showing it. So, whereas someone else just says blatantly, I don't like this, I don't like that, the ENFJ is going to be mindful of how the other person feels, and they may hold it all in. And even though they may say, I need more help, I'm struggling, sometimes people may not listen. Other people might not be as conscientious or self-aware as the ENFJ is. And also, you have to remember, some people are more into themselves than they are for others. You know, people can be greedy, people can be self-centered, and sometimes that can be shocking to an ENFJ, but it really shouldn't, because the world we live in, I would say most people do have kindness in them and they want to do the right thing overall. But a lot of people are self-centered and they're going to put themselves first, and they are very, very comfortable with doing that, whereas an ENFJ may not be as comfortable putting themselves first or being selfish, like,
hey, I'm eating all the chips. I don't care if anybody else gets chips. You know what I'm saying?
This is going to make ENFJs squirm a little bit. So I'm just telling you, it sounds simple, but it's a squirm alert. So if you're not holding people accountable, they may blow you off and take you for granted, even though it isn't your responsibility for what others choose to do with their actions. And there's a dynamic that happens when someone takes charge also. So this is something else. If you are leading, you're taking charge, you're making sure everything happens, there's something psychologically that happens when you take the lead. People subconsciously fall back, or they may feel that you really don't need their help because you've got it, you're making things happen, it's great, you're making stuff look good, and you may say, hey, help me. Well, you might also step in and take charge when people don't do what it is that you need them to do. And so it may be an accountability thing where you have to hold people accountable and take that risk, which is really hard to do. And there's conflict, and ENFJ is going to be concerned about how, not only how they feel, but also how the other person feels. So they will probably leave feeling awful and terrible, and maybe even a little irrational about the argument, and they wish they hadn't had it, that they just toughed it out, let the other person win instead of arguing and creating tension. It's just, you know what, it's just easier. I'll just do it myself because I don't want the conflict. But sometimes people need to help you and they need to do their part. ENFJs can also go into dark spaces when they are triggered, and they can go into those places quite easily. I think they have to be very, very careful with that. When they get really upset, going inward, it can be a great thing because they can figure some things out, but it could be a bad thing if they're going in too deep into depression and anxiety and they have a hard time getting out. So one of the things they may have to do on a daily basis is do like a grateful journal. And I know that seems cheesy and like it doesn't work, but it really does work. What's one thing that I'm grateful for? And really do that every day to keep your serotonin levels high. So what are triggers for an ENFJ? I'll say for me as an ENFJ, I have very strange ones. It could be a word. There are several words that are triggering to me where it dips me into a very negative space, and I don't like that. It's very irritating and depressing. But as people, we are systems that can be activated. Everyone has to figure out ways that they can take care of themselves. And it's so funny that we mentioned taking care of ourselves, because today I was talking to someone who helped me out with something, and they were at work and a storm was looming, and I said, be careful. They're saying that it's going to storm, and I personally don't like storms at all. It makes me very nervous. It's a huge trigger for me. And the other person said, well, I'd like to encourage you to make yourself a cup of tea and sit on the porch or look out the window at the storm. That is what I'm planning to do. So it's interesting how you can reframe things, or you can find ways to help yourself relax. And I think as an ENFJ, if you're one of the trigger happy ones where you just are easily triggered, because I think some ENFJs are very relaxed, but others of us are not, then you have to take care of that. And healing is necessary for all people, and it's awful and it's hard, but it can be worth it in the long run. ENFJs have a tendency to want to push away their own feelings. They're comfortable with other people's feelings, but not always with their own, because it can feel intense, overpowering, wrong. They can feel guilty, like I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't be angry at that person. I shouldn't be upset. But it's okay to feel what you feel. You have the right. We are all emotional beings. We can't help it. ENFJs have to take responsibility for the ways that they put themselves, and this is a little triggering, in situations to be let down. They can be enablers. And one of them, I am so codependent, but I am working on it, and it feels really good, because sometimes, and this can especially happen with family members or people that you're really, really close to, it's the worst that it gets. But when you step out of those people's shadows and let them take the lead, let them make some mistakes, let them try some new things, let them take some calculated risk without stepping in like, no, don't do that. You should do this, you should do that. It's a form of controlling other people. And me personally, I've been able to watch some people in my life blossom in ways that's refreshing, because I've moved myself out of the way. And it's so hard not to jump in, because I think ENFJs can be leaders when it comes to people's lives, to say, hey, don't do that, or I wouldn't do that. But that person isn't you, so let them do it. And it's healthier for you as an ENFJ too, because you need a break. And you need to be able to focus on you sometimes. So in that light, you have to be careful not to sink too far down into the rabbit hole of deep, dark thoughts. And sometimes it doesn't take much to bring an ENFJ out of that rabbit hole. All they really need, if you care about an ENFJ, is some deep understanding and just some reassurance that you're okay, that they're okay, that it's okay. We had a conflict. I'm still good. You're still good. Let's go take a walk in the cool summer breeze and watch the scenery around us. The truth is, ENFJs want to escape from uncomfortable situations that are triggering, but they can't always do that. Like if they're at work or they have social anxieties, or there's people that they're kind of used to suppressing feelings that they can't suppress at all. So they're exploding inside as someone is being disrespectful or abusive. Not to say that they just, hey, you can walk all over me. They're going to be ticked off. But sometimes they will say, okay, let me evaluate the situation. Let me stay quiet for a while. And they're really seething inside. So if they can escape uncomfortableness, they are bolting for the door. So uncomfortable situations is a huge trigger. They unknowingly help people to be a lot more sensitive emotionally just by modeling it for them. ENFJs are great models at sensitivity just by being an example and by naturally stepping into their emotions and feelings when it's needed, checking on someone emotionally, saying the right thing when they know someone is in distress. And even if they're arguing with someone, they're still checking and monitoring how the other person is taking it, or whether that they're getting the reaction that they wanted. So it's like they're monitoring themselves and monitoring the other person, even when they're angry. So even when they speak up, they can feel terrible later, like, why did I say anything? They are more comfortable shutting their mouths, but yet they have a lot to say. They want to express their frustration. So they may pick a safe person to express that rather than getting into the ring with somebody. ENFJs can trigger people with their personalities as well. And me personally, I've seen this happen for me with introverted people. Not much, but I can think of a couple of situations that are very stand out where I did the wrong thing, said the wrong thing because I'm playing around with one area in my mind, and the two things just clash. I've had a couple of situations with introverts where I've said the wrong thing or I've come across too strongly, and I know that I'm doing that when I start to see their reaction. So ENFJs are usually very aware of when they trigger someone, but there are times when they don't know quite what to do about it. And there are other times when they do know what to do about it. Let's say the ENFJ has unwittingly ticked somebody off. They may think, do I suffer the consequences and just let the person feel how they feel, even though I feel like they're judging me incorrectly? Or do I go above and beyond and try to explain myself over and over, knowing that they're not going to accept it anyway because they already have decided that they wanted to be mad at me anyway? It's kind of a hard call at times. ENFJs, do you feel like you are triggered emotionally very easily, or you're pretty laid back and that just doesn't happen to you? What are your triggers? Let us know in the comments. Me personally, I feel like with that extroverted feeling, ENFJs are way more triggered than people would actually know. Like it's an overwhelming feeling of like bursting, like you can't handle it almost. It can be very difficult to deal with. When an ENFJ is triggered and they're angry in a situation that they're in, they could lash out with a whole bunch of sarcastic truths, and they can go for the jugular with those things. And sometimes they will go there. They will take some punches and some digs. Other times they will think those things and refrain from saying them, especially if it is a friend, someone that they consider to be a friend. But in other situations, you might get your feelings really hurt if they decide to go there. Because especially if it's with people or someone who's being incredibly manipulative, they could tear them to pieces, because that it's irritating to understand what's going on and not be able to say it because good sense prevails, or you fast forward and you think, if I say this or do this, is it going to hurt other opportunities, or do I just say what I think and just go for it? What people may not understand about the ENFJ, they may see their charisma, but the truth is sometimes ENFJs can feel very deeply alone. Like maybe people don't understand, or maybe they don't care. Like they could take a walk on a sandy beach and just reflect and think about certain situations in which they are left alone to handle everything, figure everything out, be the strong person, solve every problem, be the hero, be superwoman, superman. And deep inside, they feel like, I need help, or, no one cares, or they can express the way they feel, but I don't have the right to hurt their feelings or make them feel the way they're making me feel, because I don't want to trigger them the way that they just triggered me, or just trying to, there are so many scenarios where they can look and say, hey, I was there for these people, but who's really there for me? Because I need help too, but it can be difficult for an ENFJ to really express their feelings for a long period of time unless they know it's absolutely safe and the person absolutely can handle the depth of their emotions. Otherwise, they'll just kind of jump in and jump out. They really need somebody who will say it's okay. Like you can share how you're feeling and what you need as well. So if you're triggered, don't ignore or dismiss how you're feeling. You might want to think before you respond, especially when it's close family members or somebody that you're comfortable lashing out at, because you're going to feel guilty later and you're going to be trying to fix it. Be honest with yourselves about someone's motive, explain the trigger, and reward yourself for choosing to respond rather than reacting. So, if you want more ENFJ videos, be sure to like this one, subscribe, yata, yata, and just let me know if there are any ENFJ videos that you're interested in. I like to do what you want to see. And definitely check out my book if you're interested in being in a romantic relationship with an ENFJ. You might want to check out a book about love that was written by an ENFJ, and you can get in my head a little bit. It's on Amazon. It's called Flip the Script on Love by Tamara Hunter Zyon. And I will see you, my wonderful, amazing friends who I just absolutely adore. I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.